Venezuela is trying to annex a huge part of the neighboring country of Guyana. So for reference, here's Venezuela, here's Guyana, and here's what Venezuela is claiming to be theirs. It's a region called the Essequibo, and it makes up more than 2/3 of Guyana's land, and has an estimated population of 125,000 people. Venezuela moved troops to the border in 2023, but this actually isn't the first time this exact border has been disputed by Venezuela. It starts in 1814 with the Dutch, who had controlled the area because of colonialism. The Dutch then relinquished control of the area to the British. When this happened, they made sure to draw a southern and eastern border, but never actually established a western one. And all was well and good until settlers there started to wonder, Yo, how far that way can we go? Is that west? Yeah. I don't know. So, in 1840, the British hired a dude named Robert Schomburgk to draw a western border, which looked like this. And this is the border that's commonly printed on maps and abided by since then. However, Venezuela immediately disputed this border and claimed that the real border was at the Essequibo River, but they did not take any action to incorporate the territory into the country. Then, in 1899, in a case with the International Arbitration Tribunal, the court sided with the United Kingdom, officially cementing the border as the 1840 Schomburgk Line. Venezuela abided by this ruling and respected the new border up until 1962, when they again would disregard the official border and claim that they owned the land as far east as the Essequibo River. The reason this time? Gold and diamond discoveries in the region. 4 years later, in a diplomatic agreement, the two countries outlined peaceful paths forward to solve the dispute once and for all, but never actually solved it. Then, in May of the same year, Guyana gained its independence from the British, leaving the border issue to be solved by a new Guyanan government. Some time went by, and Venezuela ended up realizing that they weren't going to get any gold or diamonds from Guyana's land, and so peacefully abided by the Schomburgk Line, without actually backing down from their claim over the region. That is until 2015, when ExxonMobil would discover 11 billion barrels of oil off the coast of Guyana, right here. To give a perspective for just how much oil we're talking about here, the Safaniya oil field in Saudi Arabia, which is the largest in the world, produces an estimated 1.2 million barrels per day. And Guyana's Stabroek Block is projected to produce that same amount by 2027. And just after this discovery, for the third time, Venezuela claimed the Essequibo for themselves. But this time was different. If you didn't know, under the UN, every country gets what's called an Exclusive Economic Zone, or an EEZ. And this zone belongs to the country, meaning no foreign entities are allowed to profit in this area. So for example, here's the United States' Exclusive Economic Zone. It extends 200 nautical miles from the coast and follows the border the whole way. And in this zone, no foreign country can just come in and start fishing in this area, or hunt for buried treasure, or drill for oil. So with that said, this would be a reasonable zone for Venezuela to claim along with the Essequibo region. That is, if claiming Essequibo was reasonable in the first place. And this is what Venezuela actually claims. This zone stretches roughly 400 nautical miles from the coast, covering most of the rest of Guyana's maritime territory, and even crosses into Surinam's EEZ, reaching over to engulf the entirety of the Stabroek Block. With this, Venezuela has made it blatantly obvious that this claim has nothing to do with the sparsely populated land of the Essequibo region, and has everything to do with oil, and therefore money. After this new claim from Venezuela, in 2018, the UN Secretary General assigned the resolution to the dispute to be decided by the International Court of Justice, or ICJ. Immediately after, Guyana launched a case asking the court to uphold the 1899 ruling from the International Arbitration Tribunal. However, Venezuela argued that the ICJ had no jurisdiction over the dispute, despite both countries being UN member states. This additional disagreement caused the case to be halted until April 2023, when the ICJ ruled that the case could continue, and that it did in fact have jurisdiction. Then, 5 months later in September, seemingly out of nowhere, Venezuela announced that it would hold a referendum with 5 questions, asking the Venezuelan people if they disagree with the 2 previous unfavorable rulings from the International Arbitration Tribunal and ICJ, and most importantly, if they support the creation of the Guyana Essequibo state, as well as granting residents Venezuelan citizenship and an identity card, and consequently incorporating said state on the map of Venezuelan territory. Or, in other words, the complete annexation of the Essequibo region, and more importantly for Venezuela, the absurd offshore maritime territory containing 11 billion barrels of oil. Along with the announcement of the referendum, the Venezuelan government also launched a campaign saying, "Vota cinco veces sí," or vote yes 5 times, making it obvious that the referendum was not being held to gauge whether citizens supported the move or not, but to use it as justification for its plans to annex the territory. This referendum was held on December 3rd, and 2 days later, the Venezuelan government claimed that over 10 million people had voted on the issue, and that an implausibly large majority of 94.4% had voted yes to every single question. This number is obviously fake, as Venezuela isn't exactly known for its free and fair elections, and intelligence collected by Guyana and its allies suggests the actual turnout was fewer than 1.5 million people, less than a tenth of the population. After the referendum, Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, ordered all foreign oil companies to leave the Stabroek bloc within 3 months, and for Venezuelan companies to start drilling immediately. Although, as of March 2024, U.S. companies like ExxonMobil are still carrying out operations in the region. And that brings us to today. Guyana still owns and controls the Essequibo region, as Venezuela tries to annex it for oil. The Venezuelan ambassador has stated that the country would never invade Guyana, although Venezuela's defense minister publicly stated that the dispute is not a war for now.